Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jon Myer podcast. Today's topic is digital transformation, IT complexity, and doing more with less. Our guest today is David Nguyen, who is the founder and consulting director of Mako IT Consulting. David, brother, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Happy to be here and good to see you as always, my friend.
Man, this is the first time you and I get to do a podcast together. We have known each other for years, never in person, but we're going to fix that hopefully this year.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we're doing a podcast. You just launched your own company, Mako IT Consulting. You're helping customers all about. I really want to talk a little bit more about this digital transformation, but how about you give our guests and our audience a little bit of backstory on yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. And just to the point, you and I have known each other for several years, and I think we give new meaning to virtual friends because our friendship's pretty strong, and it's funny how we haven't even met in person yet. So I'm looking forward to the day where I can actually toast a beer to you live in person. But
Yeah, we'll have to do a selfie of that and we'll have to tag
yeah,
each other out and be like, oh my God, finally.
I know.
I hope I don't disappoint.
Absolutely. Nah, of course not. Yeah, so digital transformation, hot topic, a couple of buzzwords that are just in the tech industry today that's, really top of mind for a lot of customers that I work with, and I'm sure people that you work with. But it's various things, right? It's a big challenge that organizations are facing today, and some of the things are things like legacy systems, right? If you think about older companies that have been around since, let's say, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, they've got a lot of old systems and technologies that they're using today, and now they're trying to embrace cloud and newer SaaS technologies, things like that, right? So they just have some challenges there. Cultural change, a lot of these folks that are in these organizations have kind of built their careers on certain platforms, 5, 10, 15, 20 years at a company, and all of a sudden this SaaS platform comes in and there's a little pushback, right? So there's some cultural shifting going on. That kind of ties into a skills gap as well. I mean, folks need to embrace new technologies. You got to have new skills and be able to, get after some of these things. Data security, obviously top of mind, right? I mean, cybersecurity is huge for any organization. A lot of crazy things happening in the world today. Introducing new tech into your environment presents potentially new security threats that you got to be aware of and stay on top of, right? I think customer experience is pretty important as well. I mean, the customers of the people that work at a particular company. You go into work, you log in, you want a seamless experience, you want access to all applications, you want to be efficient, you want your people to be very efficient and protected. And probably the most important thing about digital transformation is cost, right? I mean, budgets are getting tighter. People got to do the best they can with the budgets that they have available to them, right? So and there's other things we could chat about too, but the digital transformation from a high level, that's kind of the things that I see with my clients.
You mentioned so many aspects, and I'm going to highlight a couple of those that I feel are important. But before I get there, why is it that these companies that have been around for half a century and decades, that digital transformation has become important to them?
Excellent question. I mean, I think simply put, if you don't adapt, improvise, overcome, you're going to get left behind, right? You can go out to any company for the most part, whether it's retail, tech, fintech, finops, whoever. If they're not adapting and changing to their environments, they're going to get left behind, and they got to stay ahead of the competition. Even healthcare, for example, is another good one that I work pretty closely with. You got to stay ahead of the game. You got to know what's coming, what's out there, fully vet it, bring in the good stuff, and disregard the things that you don't need for your environment. Right.
One of the things that you highlighted or touched on is adapting and change, right? Internal change. Executives are like, hey, listen, we got to adopt this digital transformation. We got to get our stuff flowing. We want to move to the cloud. We want to upgrade all the things. Those who have built these things from ground up, they're more or less feel like they're babies, right? I did this, I built all this, and another thing comes in and they have to change it and they adapt. There's usually that friction that they just don't want to do that, and the unknown because they don't have the skills to do it. And rather than kind of learning some of those, you always have, I want to say, like headbutton early on,
Totally.
and until they realize that this is value add for them and their company and that they don't have to worry about job security. That's really a lot where digital transformation happens internally.
Agreed. I think you're hitting the nail on the head when it comes to a culture shift and a culture change, embracing change, getting comfortable with failure when you're trying things and being able to adapt very quickly. That's tough. As I kind of mentioned earlier, there's a lot of folks that are lifers per se at organizations. They're used to doing certain things a certain way, and they don't want to change. I don't like this new stuff, and if they don't, they're going to get left behind. But those that do adapt, learn new skill sets, they become more valuable to the organization, right? And they get better and smarter, and they can kind of teach the next generation as well, right? And embrace others that join the organization. So yeah, it comes back to culture, and I think that's largely important for really any organization. You got to embrace these things.
One of the other things that I wanted to add on is that it has to be a full-on executive buy-in from top down, and your executives have to be willing to change. Know
Yeah,
that change is going to disrupt the culture. It's going to disrupt the environment, but it's ultimately good for the company. And
yep,
when it comes top down, and reassure, the message has to be reassured that we're not taking your jobs, we're adapting, and you're going to learn new skills, and we're going
yep.
to help you do that. We're here every step of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got to come from the top, right? And come with a level of empathy. You got to highlight the job security. We're not trying to get rid of people. We're just trying to do a little more with less, right? So if you're not adapting, then you're gonna have some challenges, right? So all the CIOs and the CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers that I work with and talk to, the ones that are ahead of the game are the ones that are sharing ideas, embracing change. I'm fortunate enough, and I'm sure you have too, to go to certain conferences with these C-level folks and just kind of hear the banter, right? The ones that are really doing well, the companies and their stock prices are going up, are the ones that are embracing this digital transformation.
What are some of the IT challenges that maybe your customers or you're hearing other customers that are facing today?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a few things to talk about there as well. I think we talk about that culture change. That kind of ties into IT complexity, but legacy systems integrating with new systems, right? There's a little bit of uncertainty there. How do things integrate? Are there any gaps, any holes? Are we exposed to a degree? New technologies coming in, new user interfaces, new more tools to manage the environment. The environment gets bigger; it's not getting smaller. More data in the environment, which presents potentially security risks. Got to make sure the environment's protected, whether it's on-prem, in the cloud, or back and forth. Performance monitoring, I think, is largely important as well, right? I mean, monitoring and maintaining performance with new tools, got to stay on top of that stuff. Kind of non-tech, if you will, the vendor management, right? Working with multiple different vendors, new and up and coming vendors, and bringing all this stuff in. It can get complex pretty quick, right? And so you got to have a pretty strong, streamlined vendor management system. One thing I see that's pretty painful when it comes to IT complexity is the technical debt. All right, so I have several customers that will buy a technology and sign a 3-year deal, 3-year contract, if you will, and it's not even deployed a year and a half, 2 years into it. So you think about the money that's being spent and being wasted, it's pretty bad, and so it's not ideal. And so getting ahead of things like that is very important, right?
Fear of the unknown when implementing or doing digital transformation, and security is always top of mind for a number of customers and companies. And the reason
Yeah,
it is if you just open up your browser today and search it, there's always something going on. Something was hacked, something ransomware is out there,
yeah,
data's been released, unsecure. And I think that brings a little bit of uncertainty when, executives say that we need to do digital transformation for this, and just do it, go. And one of
right.
the things that I would recommend is slow down. We can do this. Don't
Yeah,
bite off more than you can chew, but
yeah,
start working on it piece by piece.
absolutely. I mean, it takes hours of planning and meetings and whiteboarding, if you will, and blueprinting and figuring out, what's going to work, what makes sense. And, I've noticed in with the customers that I work with, the most successful ones are taking a phased approach, right? It's not
Yep.
all in per se, right? You got a phase zero, you implement, you design, you get it in, and you grow it out, right? And you got a phase one, phase two, phase three, so on and so on. And you map it out, right? You map out the timeline, you stick to your timelines. Good project managers stay on top of this kind of stuff as well. So you can be very strategic about it, right? To make sure it's successful. I mean, the last thing you want is, again, technical debt. I mean, you're wasting money if you're buying things and you're not deploying it exactly the way you thought it was supposed to be deployed.
Another challenging aspect of just doing, and I know the digital transformation, when people hear it, a buzzword, but in reality, what you're doing is you're taking, legacy stuff and you're moving to a newer environment. It doesn't have to be the cloud. You're just
Right.
using it to be more efficient. And one of the challenges is the IT complexity that's actually behind the software that you deployed, the customized proprietary stuff, the IP, everything that was built and bolted on gets very complex, because not only does it
Hmm.
span from one server to one server to database, but it can span between data centers, between
Yeah.
countries.
Yeah. Very challenging, right? Imagine if you're a smaller shop and you're very strained on these resources as far as IT people and security people. You got just a handful of folks managing something globally, right? Very challenging. And that kind of segues into another important aspect of digital transformation is the doing more with less, right? So a couple of things to think about there. Resource constraints that we just kind of talked about, right? You got one person or just a handful of people managing all the SaaS, all the on-prem, the integrations, and the vendor management on top of that. That's a lot. It's a lot for. I'm noticing prioritization. I've got some customers out there that will have 50 or 60 projects a year, and you know what gets on the budget for the following year for 2025? Three. So they really have to focus and double down on what's important and just kind of push things, kind of kick things down the road for following years, which is good and bad in itself. Automation to be very efficient, right? The more things you can automate, the better. Would be ideal, right? Because especially if you're again good doing more with less, maintaining quality, not letting quality drop off, fully vetting out the new stuff that's coming in, making sure it integrates perfectly and it remains at a high level that's satisfying to your customers, to your employees. Um, I think employee burnout is also a important one, right? Because again, if you've got a lean staff and they're just, you know, 12 hours a day and, they're available weekends and holidays, people can only tolerate so much, right? You're going to hit a tipping point with folks like that, right? You got to support them properly. I think the last thing I'll say is innovation pressure. You really have to embrace the new stuff. If you don't, it's just, you're going to get left behind. And it's going to be extremely challenging to develop and differentiate your business to competitors, right?
I like to do more with less slogan. And the reason that I
Yeah.
think about that, doing more with less, and I'm not talking about like less resources, less people, less money and everything, is that you might have, and smaller shops, if you think of those, maybe
Yeah.
two or three people, right? Do more with less. Here's what I've got. And I don't have enough resources to kind of do it. But guess what? I can lean on vendors, partners, MSPs, those who could do more for me,
Yeah.
and not only can I get more done, but then it's more done for the company. And that goes into the vendor management that you were talking about. Somebody's
Yeah.
managing the vendor and they realize that I have a less and I need to do more. And that's the time where you turn to the side and you tap on your partner, you tap on that vendor and you pull them in. And I need to get all this done. And if I get this done, I get budget more for you to do more for me.
Yeah. What you just described right there is exactly why I created Mako IT Consulting, right? We're a small shop. I've got a partner who's my CTO, and we're operating from a very qualitative perspective, right? I mean, for example, we cover healthcare, some large hospitals in the area here. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, so um, their job is not to identify and evaluate technologies all day long, right? They're in healthcare. They got to save lives. They got to protect patient information and protect from cybersecurity attacks and things like that. And so, what we are is we believe we're trusted advisors to folks like that and other customers, and to lean on us to do the vetting for you. Right? If you got a specific business challenge or problem, cybersecurity related, AI related, we'll do the homework for you. We will vet out 3 to 5 different technologies that you should look at, and we'll give you a quick summary. We'll make recommendations. If you like it, we'll bridge the gap. We can pull these people in and have a proper meeting. So, we talk about digital transformation, we talk about IT complexity, and we talk about doing more with less. But there are ways to address these things, right? And I think, the big part of consulting is the strategic planning, making sure you're very focused on what the problem is and how we're going to solve this problem, establish the timeline, get the right technologies in, right?
I know we're talking about digital transformation, the IT complexities, doing more with
Mhm.
less, the vendors, partners, and dealing with maybe a reseller or a
Yeah.
resale community. What is your perspective on it?
Yeah. Reseller communities are great in my opinion, right? I'm a reseller myself, so I'm joining the game per se. And I think I saw a stat recently that 2023, there was about $4.7 trillion in IT spend. And about 70% of that spend was driven by IT resellers, the reseller community. So we're talking big numbers, a lot of technology evaluation, a lot of deals going on per se, right? And so that goes back to relying on the reseller community to bring that value. Now, the reseller community sometimes gets a bad rap. Sometimes they are kind of just want to sell you something or sell you anything just to make a buck, right? Mako IT, we don't do that. We're very qualitative. And smaller shops are like us, right? There's good partners out there. We go into a client and we say, look, we know you have other partners and relationships you've had for years and decades. We're not trying to disrupt anything. We're trying to help you solve a problem. Give us a problem to work with. We'll help you solve it. And we build trust that way. We work on another problem and another problem. And that's how we build our qualitative customer base, right? So generally speaking, from a reseller community standpoint, very important to all organizations and everybody. There's a lot of great partnerships out there. And yeah, so we're excited to be a part of that. And I think it's great.
David, you mentioned the keyword trust. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the tough things in any type of sales environment, community, resell, however you put it, is that there have been those one offs or two offs where companies have got burnt, right? They're trying to sell
Yeah.
more than what they really need. The trust has been burnt. And now you're coming into this world. You've been doing this for years, but now you own a company and you have to come against the past person who made a mistake, the past person who sold more when it. How do you
Yeah.
actually overcome those challenges?
Yeah, like any good relationship, there's a level of trust, right? I mean, we talk about personal relationships. If you've been burned in one and the next person you meet, you probably shouldn't bring that package with you to the next relationship. Have an open mind, know what you want, know what you're looking for. Do you want somebody that's going to be with you every step of the way and introduce you to new things? Again, it's a two-way street to any partnership or relationship, right? And that's the focus. So again, there's a lot of great partnerships out there between organizations and resellers. It takes years of working together, building that trust, and just having these great partnerships, right? At the end of the day, you are trying to establish a good partnership, and I think most people can sniff out whether you're trying to do that or not, right? So
One of the key things is that you solve the problem for them,
yeah,
not the solution to the problem. Like, oh yeah, I've got this and this and this. Here's
exactly.
how we can solve the problem for you. And I have to tell you that we can do 50% of it, but I got to make a recommendation to somebody else who take you the rest of the way and let me introduce you to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Being
yeah,
upfront and honest and not saying, yeah, we could do it all. And then all of a
yeah.
sudden you got to do more than you really think that you can possibly do, and which could cause some constraints against the relationship.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. I'm sure you do too. It's like, some of these partners just get their head over their skis. They say they can do this and do that, and they really can't, right? And
Yep.
they could be trying to just buy time to find a, subcontract out or something like that. And I think that just hurts you. It hurts your brand. It does not build credibility, and it really is just counterproductive to growing a business like a reseller business, right? So,
Being upfront and honest, and yeah, I deal with this a lot where I actually don't go into a thing and saying, yeah, let's see if we are the right fit for you, right? Not see how we can help or whatever it
yeah,
is. Maybe we can, we can't, but
right.
let's have that 15-minute call. And if we
Yeah,
can help you out with it, we'll tell you. If not, we could try to recommend somebody else. And worst case, I always tell them we're connected, we're networked.
yeah. And by definition, that's what being a true consultant is, right? Taking the time, understand the challenges, the problems, the issues, the persons that you're working with. What makes them tick? What's important to them? What's keeping them up at night? And how can my company help them? Right? We're doing that, then we're putting pieces of the puzzle together, and then we can make something beautiful. Right?
Yep. David, do you have any advice for like maybe the next generation of technology sellers that are coming in?
Yeah, yeah. Run for the hills. No, kidding.
Well, I'm out. I'm just kidding.
No, I've been fortunate to do this for a long time. You and I were clearly paired together for a while, selling, and I always kind of keep my ear to the ground, and I never say no to younger folks that want to get into this line of work, right? And so I do mentor several folks from a sales development standpoint, people that kind of bang phones all day long, set appointments for field sellers at vendors. I like helping them. I just like helping them, generally speaking. And I said, my advice is this: this is a tough game to be a salesperson. You got to have thick skin. You got to kind of have a type A personality, and you're working with people, right? And your whole goal is try to get people to like you and work with you, right? They don't like it. Maybe they'll work with you. I don't know. So I like to think people like me because I'm pretty genuine, pretty real.
I
But yeah,
like
I
you,
tell them,
buddy.
hey, thanks, man. See, it was working. So yeah, you know, I mean, we're all getting older, right? There's next generation coming up right behind us, and you know, looking for help, looking for advice. I never say no to anybody that wants to spend time with me and just kind of pick my brain, and you know, I give them all the advice in the world and things that I've done in my career and where the pitfalls are, and you know, how to focus, how to get promoted from like an inside seller to an outside seller to working in the enterprise. I tell them everything they want to know. You know, again, I would never say no to anybody that wants to help. And yeah, I mean, it's a great career. You make good money. It's rewarding. There's a lot going on. If you got some ADD, this is a pretty good career for you because there's a lot of stuff to do all the time. And yeah, that would be my advice. So you gotta be kind of built for it, right? Like I personally know I cannot be a rocket scientist, right? So I will not try to build a rocket, right? But I know I could be a salesperson. So
And mentoring is actually one of the key things what I try to do. So many people reach out to me, not only on LinkedIn, email, on our Slack channels and communities that we're in, and like, oh, John, go about this. Can I get your help with this? Now, what I try to do is I can't allocate my time to doing a lot of things for them, and I will suggest more on their own. And if they take the initiative to start doing a lot
mhm,
on their own, or if
yeah,
I make a suggestion and they take it and they run with it, those are the ones I really want to work with because
mhm,
they have the motivation, they have the drive to go and do it and get those things done. If they're going to take a suggestion and then you like, maybe or whatever it is, hey, no big deal. But listen, I can only have so many hours in a day and I love helping people out and suggest how I got here. But to be
yeah,
honest with you, I'm working just as hard as you are still to this
yeah,
day.
yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, the only reward that you and I would get out of this and helping and mentoring people is to see them successful, right? See them get promoted and you know be happy and make money and all that kind of
Yep.
good stuff. That's all we get out of it, which is more than enough. Like I'm not doing it to you know charge young people, say, hey, you know, my advice costs this much, give me this much. No,
Yep.
I like to see people do well, and I know you do too, right? And so to your point, if they're actually kind of listening, they're growing and they're hitting some milestones, you get excited for them, right? And you want to keep working with them. You're like, hey, you know, what else? What's next for you? What do you think?
Before I wrap things up, I've got a nice fun question for you. And you and I
Yeah.
were actually talking about this before. If you don't notice in the background, and I'll do a full screen here for everybody in a second, is David is a huge Raiders fan. Yes, he's in Arizona, not a Cardinals. Season ticket member. I'm a season ticket member of the Eagles. Yes, we don't bash each other. In fact, we root for each
Yeah,
other for it.
absolutely.
David, what are your predictions this year for the Raiders?
Ooh, oh, for the Raiders, gosh. You know, I would say as a Raiders fan, there's two things that you should know about me. One, I'm a loyal guy, and two, I'm a glutton for punishment. So it's been rough being a Raiders fan for the last 20 some odd years, 30 years. Now, what am I thinking? I'm thinking and hoping the Raiders will follow a similar path to the great Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions have just been down for a long time. You know, they had a lot of great players, you know, like Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, what have you. They just never kind of got over the hump, right? But the last 3 years has been really impressive for them when they brought in Dan Campbell and they built a culture of winning and just a bunch of great players there. I'm hoping we see some of that success with the Raiders, with Antonio Pierce kind of taking over as a former player. And, you know, we got Devontae Adams, who's my favorite guy in the world. Um, we'll see, you know, but I don't know. I don't think the projections for preseason are great for the Raiders, so we'll see.
What do you got for the season?
As far as like wins and
What's your win
losses, or
loss prediction?
okay, so on the high end, I would say 10-7, and that means like I believe the Raiders defense is going to be pretty good, so maybe that's 6 wins, and then we just need 4 wins from Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, whoever finishes the
I
season.
like
So that
Gardner,
would,
by the way. I have to say, I am a
yeah,
Gardner
he's fun.
fan.
He's fun. He's got a lot of personality, right? Like Uncle
Yes.
Rico.
Yeah. Yes.
He's
All right.
fun.
What's your, what you said on the high end 10-7? What was the rest?
Oh gosh, so flip it, right? The low end will probably be like 6-11, and you know we won't get the number one pick, we won't get the best quarterback. We'll just kind of get like the number eighth pick and just be an offensive tackle or something. You know, no, not to bag offensive tackles. We need you guys too, but
Okay. If you guys don't know, you don't have some of the history of NFL. The Eagles Raiders played in a Super Bowl, no,
yeah,
1980, right? So
83 was it?
81. No,
81.
80, 81. I think it was
Oh man,
81. and I
Okay.
won't tell
Yeah.
you why I know it's 81. Well, it was the 80 season, 81 was the thing. But
Yeah.
anyway, uh, that's yeah.
We
So
were the LA
anyway,
Raiders.
yes, definitely. And so my prediction for the Eagles this year, while I want to say undefeated because we look freaking great on paper, they're
Yeah.
awesome. I'm going to say for my high end undefeated. On my
Wow.
low end, I'm going to say that we're going to be like 15-2. And why I say that
On
is
the
we're going to lock up and we're going to be resting guys for the last two games
the
or
last two
something. Or
games.
yes, and we're going to lose the last two games.
Yeah.
Though Pickett, I'm not a fan of Pickett. I'm a fan of McKee. Tanner McKee has looked so much
Yeah.
better than Pickett in the preseason's game. I hope Tanner becomes like second, but I understand where they're at. But that's my prediction.
I like it. That is very bold, and that is upper echelon. I like it a lot. And
Just
I'm an
like you,
Eagles
I'm an
fan.
Eagles
Yeah.
fan, and I'm used to disappointment. So if I'm disappointed, I know it.
Yeah, well, you guys have had a lot of great players too. I remember watching Randall Cunningham as a kid. He was
Oh
awesome. He was so
yes.
fun to watch. I loved him. He was awesome. And no, I'm happy for you guys. And I was a little perturbed when the Raiders did not draft Jalen Hurts in the third round a few
Oh,
years ago. I was like, yeah, we
so
could have had Jalen
disappointing.
Hurts. Yeah, yeah. We had Derek Carr. I guess he was supposed to take us to the promised
All right. Did you have a Super Bowl prediction?
Oh, tough one. Well, just be bold. I'd say Detroit Lions are going to get there, right? Well, Detroit's NFC, right? So that means probably them and probably dare I say it, the chefs out of Kansas City. I can't say their name properly.
Yeah, I think I'm at the point where, you know what? Listen, Andy Reid has a special place here in Philadelphia, and
Yeah,
he's won his Super Bowls. He finally got his rings. And I'm at a point, just like you were at a point with the Patriots, you're done, put somebody else in the thing. But then again, if I'm a Chefs fan, I understand, right? I want
yeah.
them to, be there again. I think we're going to have a rematch with the Eagles and the Chefs, and that the Eagles
Oh,
will finally win. There will not be any like, I'll dominate and can't hurt a
yeah.
crippled quarterback on the field, ankle taped. I don't know what kind of shit they gave him, but hell yeah, I want that. But anyway, that's my prediction, but we'll
I like
see.
it. I'd be rooting for the Eagles in that scenario for sure. So I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it.
I'll be coming out to Vegas to place my bet.
There you go. That's our rendezvous point for sure. Vegas.
All right, David, I got to wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining me, man.
Oh, so fun. Thanks a lot, John. And I'm just really happy for you and all your success and what you're doing with Meyer Media. And man, just over the moon happy for you, man. Keep it going, man.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Always appreciate somebody rooting me on, especially someone like yourself, a close friend, brother. That's always, him and you and I have always had that sidebar conversation. Some things great going on. When you launched this, I know I said I'm wrapping up. Anyway, this is why ADHD works great for
Yeah,
this type
totally.
of stuff
Yeah, totally.
because the conversation goes. But when you launch your company, that was the first thing that I reached out. I'm like, dude,
Yeah,
let's hear about it. How can I help you? I want to
yeah,
help you. Let's do some stuff. And I was like, all right, come on to this podcast. And you're like,
yeah.
yeah. I'm like, come on, you'll have fun. It was not stressful. And you're like, all right, let's do it. And
Yeah.
I will wrap it up. How do you feel now?
I feel good. It was a lot of fun. I definitely would like to do it again, and first time doing a podcast. So yeah, very fun, man. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all the help that you've given me already. And shout out to you for just showing me these guys here, these business chips. Pretty awesome. Very, very cool idea.
All right. Yeah, I always play with mine on the desk. Well, David, I'm going to wrap it up officially this time. Thanks, brother.
All right, man. I appreciate you, brother. Take
All
care.
right. Everybody, this has been the Jon Myer podcast. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and notify because guess what? We're out of here.